Hey guys, in this IB chemistry video, I'm going to be discussing the topic quantitative chemistry. So let's start off by talking about what a mole is. It's defined as the amount of a substance which contains the same number of chemical species as there are atoms in exactly 12 grams of the isotope carbon-12. That's a very formal IB definition of what a mole is, but let me explain it in simpler terms. So like shoes and socks are counted in pairs and eggs are counted in dozens, chemists decided to count atoms in moles instead of counting them in terms of each and every atom to make life simpler. So 1 mole of any substance contains 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23 atoms of that substance. This is called Avogadro's constant. So just like 1 carton of eggs contains 12 eggs, 1 mole of, for example, sodium contains 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23 sodium atoms. Okay, so this sounds simple, and it is, but there are a few tricky questions. For example, 1 mole of hydrogen gas does not contain 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23 hydrogen atoms. It actually contains 1.2 times 10 to the power of 24 atoms. That's because hydrogen never exists naturally as a single atom of hydrogen. It's always paired up with another hydrogen. So 1 mole of hydrogen gas actually contains 1.2 times 10 to the power of 24 hydrogen atoms. How did we get this? We just multiplied 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23 by 2 because we know that there are double the amount of hydrogen atoms in 1 mole of hydrogen gas. These exceptions are called diatomic molecules, and they include hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, and iodine gas. Another thing you have to keep in mind is counting the number of atoms in molecules. So when you have a mole of sodium chloride, you have 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23 sodium atoms and also 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23 chlorine atoms. But you would have a total of 1.2 times 10 to the power of 24 atoms. Also, if you have 2 moles of sodium chloride atoms and you need to find out the total number of atoms in it, you'd multiply that by 2 again. So the answer would be 2.4 times 10 to the power of 24 atoms. Alright, so that wasn't so bad. Now we know how to count the number of atoms in moles. Let's talk about figuring out how much they weigh. Well, that's simple. All you have to do is just look at the periodic table. The relative atomic mass is always the bigger number on the table. So for example, the relative atomic mass of helium is 4, but if we wanted to find the mass of a molecule, in other words, the relative molecular mass, we would just add the atomic mass of each of the elements together. For example, in ethanol, there are 2 carbons and a total of 6 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. When you add each of their masses together, you get 46.08, and that's the relative molecular mass of ethanol. Now, what if you have a question like calculate the number of moles in 4 grams of sodium hydroxide, NaOH? Well, we have a formula. I personally find the triangle formula helpful, so I'll explain that method. Basically what you do is you draw this triangle and you cover up what you want to find, and then you do what's left to get the answer. So for example, if you wanted to find the number of grams, all you have to do is you cover up the grams section of the triangle and then you multiply moles by molar mass, because that's what's left on the triangle. So to answer the question, you would take the mass given in the question, which is 4 grams, and multiply it by the molar mass of NaOH, which if you add it together is 40. So your answer would be 0.1 moles. And that's basically it. You can figure out either the mass, the number of moles, or molar mass of anything as long as you have 2 of the above, and you can use the triangle method if you find that helpful. I hope it made sense to you. Please comment if something is unclear, and subscribe if you found this video helpful.